this time of year is when Metro usually does their most intense work. For example, replacing tracks in downtown areas, which is why this year the Blue, Orange, and Silver Line stations at McPherson Square, Farragut West, and the platforms at Metro Center are closed, as well as for a brief period, stations at Federal, Triangle, Smithsonian, and the Blue, Orange, Silver Line platforms at L'Enfant Plaza will also be closed, so that Metro can get on with some much-needed improvement works. However, these logistical challenges often bring into question the way Metro operates during these things. But more specifically, during this video, I'm going to be talking about the destination programs, and why most of the time when anything goes wrong, your train is likely to just say special.
Federal Triangle for northern center of the car. The next stop is Smithsonian.
Before we get into the logistics of destination displays on the DC Metro, we need to discuss how DC Metro got the system that they have in terms of how they use destination programs. And that originates all the way back to the system's opening in 1976 with the 1000 series cars, which originally used physical roll signs to indicate the destinations of trains. However, this quickly fell out of favor with Metro, and for a number of reasons. For starters, the way Metro designed the roll signs wasn't exactly optimal, as each one had a strip map printed on the interior side. That way, passengers standing on the platform could see the destination of the train and what line it was on. Passengers on the inside could see the stops being made. However, this would mean that, for example, if a train was headed to DuPont Circle, and the interior side of the roll sign only showed the stations between Rhode Island Avenue, the original terminus, and DuPont Circle, that would mean DuPont Circle would have to be repeated multiple times in the exterior in order for the interior displays to show the route and terminus for every single possible other station that a train to DuPont Circle could be originating from. The other limitation that a roll sign had was that, well, it's a physical sign. There is an upper limit to just how long a roll sign can be, meaning there is an upper limit to just how many destinations can be on one single roll sign. This means that if you've ever looked at the Metro map in the year 1983, you would see an absolute mess along the orange and blue lines. The reason for this is because they wanted trains on every single route to be able to run to every single terminus along both of those lines. Now, for something like this to be displayed on a roll sign would need much more space to be able to show a national airport destination from both an orange line color and in a blue line color, and a Ballston display for both the orange line and blue line colors. But they didn't have the room for that. Instead, they only had orange line displays showing New Carrollton and Ballston, and blue line roll signs showing Addison Road and National Airport. So, to allow Metro to achieve this absolutely insane plan they had, they came up with an even more confusing system for passengers to try to somehow figure out, which would be that orange line trains would only run westbound from Addison Road to Ballston, and eastbound from National Airport to New Carrollton, and the opposite would be true for the blue line. Needless to say, this system was extremely confusing, and was very quickly thrown out of favor. However, even with all the very obvious and clear limitations of the roll sign system, they still managed to stick around on Metro trains, specifically only the 1000 series cars, up until the 1990s, with the opening of the Green Line and the refurbishment of said cars. The 1000 series were fitted with a flip-dot LED system to show destination displays. This is the same destination display system that was used on the 4000 series cars. However, one holdout still remained on the Metro system, being the infamous money train. When the money train was still made up of 1000 series cars, it used a set that had roll signs fitted on it. However, with the retirement of these cars, that money train also went. However, by the time the roll signs had left revenue service with Metro, there was already another form of destination display already in use, and that is what is currently used right now on both the older 3000 and 6000 series cars and the newer 7000 series cars, and that is a full LED destination display. However, we're going to get back to that in a bit, because there is a key fundamental design issue with both these LED displays and the flip dot signs, although only with the LED displays in the older trains, and that is how they display the destinations themselves rather than what is used to show them. You see, when you have a system as big and as comprehensive as Metro, with as many crossovers and possible destinations as Metro, you need to have a lot of different possible destinations to be able to display. Metro did not have the foresight for this. Their destination systems on their older trains only have a 2-digit destination system, and that's no letters, only numbers. What this means is that Metro only has 100 destination codes. And you might be thinking, well, that's just perfect. After all, Metro has 98 stations, and that leaves 2 codes left over, maybe for not in service or for special. Well, it would be great if it was that simple, but the thing is, yes, not all of those stations have crossovers, and not all of them will be used as terminals. However, let me pick a random station, for example, Smithsonian Station. That station has so many different possible ways to be a terminus station. For example, it could be the terminating point of an Orange Line train heading west, or an Orange Line train heading east, or a Blue Line train heading west, or a Blue Line train heading east. And same goes for the Silver Line. And that's not even getting into how any other station on any of those 3 lines could be the origin point for that train, meaning that would need a different code for the internal destination displays. Granted, that can be set manually, but even then, with the 2 possible directions it's coming from, when you do the math on that, it becomes very apparent that there just aren't enough destination codes for the possible amount of destinations that Metro has. So, given the fact that Metro only has 99 possible destination codes, how do they actually go about displaying destinations then? Especially during track work or even during regular service when something goes wrong. Well, the sad thing is that for 90% of the situations, it feels like, even though the odds are actually quite a bit less, there just isn't a code that will allow for it. Therefore, most of the time, trains literally just say special on the side. However, this issue shouldn't be a problem anymore. You see, everything really changed when the 7000 series cars entered service in 2015. These trains had a key design feature that was changed with their destination displays. That was the addition of an extra digit in destination codes, meaning the amount of possible destinations a train could show had now essentially increased tenfold. And now, the 7000 series trains make up the vast majority of Metro's fleet. So, how come during all of these different service changes and disruptions, 7000 series trains still very rarely show destination displays that are unique to those trains, that being new added ones? Well, it's being done right now, and it's been done before. For example, this winter's Blue-Orange Silver Line closure, last winter's Red Line closure, and the Red Line closure over this summer. But that brings up even more questions regarding destination displays and the 7000 series addition of codes. That being, why wait for closures to implement these new codes? Why not just add them all in? Every possible destination that a train could possibly run. There's definitely enough room on programs for it. Why not add it in now to save time later, and so that trains can actually display these destinations when service changes happen? Well, for starters, there's a training issue there. You see, Metro operators have to memorize these codes so that they can actually input them into trains during turnarounds or setting up trains for service. For example, during the closure recently, the ongoing one with the Blue-Orange Silver Lines, I've seen a lot of Blue Line trains that were terminating Foggy Bottom. Instead of being signed up as special, because they were older trains, didn't have the new code, they were signed up as going to Largo. Now this could be for one of 2 reasons. One reason was that the driver just simply forgot to change the code, forgot the closure was happening, or because they didn't want people to be confused by just seeing special, which is something that's become increasingly apparent during recent closures, that people don't really like to see special on the side of their train because it gives them 0 information on where that train is actually going or what line it's on. Actually, believe it or not, that is actually the main reason that Metro implemented these new codes onto 7000 series trains in the first place. The capacity had been there for a very long time, just sitting unused. the main reason they implemented it was because they noticed during longer and long-term closures, people didn't really want special on the side of trains. It was very vague and didn't really give any information pertaining to why the train was signed to special, where it was going, what line it was on, etc. So, seeing the vast amount of unused codes that they had, Metro decided to implement some new ones recently, or at least last year, if you count that as recent, to add some brand new destination codes that had never been before seen on the Metro system. Speaking of never before seen destination codes, there have been quite a few that I've seen that I would consider highlights in that category, in terms of codes that have never been used in actual service, or have been used and shouldn't have been used, or just shouldn't have existed in the first place. The two most glaringly obvious ones, one of which I actually saw and the other which I've never seen before, are both referring to the Silver Line, that being the code for Route 772 and the code for Dulles Airport. The code for Dulles Airport is pretty self-explanatory. A plan for a metro line to Dulles was always being considered since the original draft plans for the system. So it was obviously conceded that that would probably have been the terminus of the line. However, when the plans became more and more solid, the line was eventually going to be extended to Ashburn, and with the latest revision to the plans before construction began, Dulles Airport would actually lose its ability to efficiently terminate trains. This is because crossovers at the station were actually moved. One of them was going to be positioned and is positioned between Innovation Center and Dulles Station. The other crossover is located at the opposite end of the station, quite a far way out. There was originally going to be a pocket track to turn trains. However, this was cut out of the plans. So, therefore, Dulles isn't really suitable as a terminus anymore. Granted, it's very much still possible to terminate a train at Dulles, but it would not be practical in any sense of the word, and it would just make more sense to turn trains at Ashburn or Innovation Center if it's due to an issue further along the line. Would it be optional for airport passengers? Probably not. Metro might still do it because of the importance of the airport, but it would definitely not be an efficient terminal, and therefore the Dulles Airport code was never used on the trains that it was designed to be used on. However, speaking of the Silver Line, the other code, Route 772, is quite an oddity, and I'm not sure why it was even added in the first place. You see, Route 772 was the planning name for the Ashburn station. However, Metro hasn't exactly had a good track record for keeping planning names for stations, when they had such gems on the first phase of Silver Line as Tyson Central 123, for what is now Tyson Station. However, given the fact that no other planning codes for any Metro stations ever made it into a Metro destination display, why did Route 772 actually make it in? And this I genuinely do not know the answer to. The only real reason I can think of is that it was the planning name for that station for such a long time, and it was intended to be the terminus of the Silver Line since the final plans for the line were drafted. However, this code still somehow saw actual use in revenue service, as many people who were there for the grand opening of Silver Line Phase 2 can attest to. Older train sets were seen with a mix of codes for both Route 772 and Ashburn, which is something that I found so insane, given the fact that I knew that at the time that Metro only had 99 codes on older trains. So I was wondering, why in the world would they waste a code on Route 772 instead of simply replacing that code with Ashburn and not, essentially have one station that has two separate destination codes, which makes no sense for a station that is a terminus. This kind of thing is unlikely to happen in the future, though, given Metro's new attitude towards destination codes. And ironically, and funny enough, even with Metro's new attitude with destination codes, even if this does happen, it's not going to be an issue, given that the 7000 series trains, again, have 10 times more opportunities for codes than the existing rolling stock. With that being said, look out for the destination codes next time you're out on Metro. Check to see if maybe you're on a 7000 series train, and you got very lucky and got to see a brand new, never-before-seen destination code. Maybe you got a rare one of those 99 destination codes that are used on the older trains. Or your train could also just say special. However, that is going to do it for me today. hope you have a wonderful rest of your holidays. I know I did. I've gotten a lot of new equipment for making videos, so content quality should be improving in the near future. I am the Autistic Transit Fan, and I will see all of you in the next year.